Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl Wills, author and New York One news anchor. Don't go anywhere. Profiles is coming up next.
Welcome to Profiles. I'm Marley Hall. Today's guest is Cheryl Wills, longtime news anchor for Time Warner Cable's New York One News. Back in 1992, Cheryl was one of the original employees at New York One. Since then, she's been awarded an honorary doctorate from New York College, and in 2010, she was honored by McDonald's as a broadcast legend. After a short break, we'll join our host Mickey Burns as he welcomes journalist Cheryl Wills to Profiles. Welcome back to Profiles. New York One news anchor Cheryl Wills has recently added author to her resume and is currently celebrating the release of her first book titled Die Free, A Heroic Family Tale. In the book, Cheryl shares the unvarnished truth about her family roots and its remarkable journey from slavery to freedom in America. So let's join our host Mickey Burns on location from the Hotel Wales on the Upper East Side of Manhattan as he welcomes broadcast journalist and author Cheryl Wills to Profiles.
Hello, I'm Cheryl Wills, and welcome to Jazz Lives Here. It's 8 o'clock, straight ahead on New York Tonight.
Very shortly, we should be learning about the fate of Peter Bukanovic.
More on our top stories in a moment, but first, your weather on the ones.
This is truly an only in New York fashion show.
The news continues right after this.
Cheryl Wills, welcome to our show Profiles.
Mickey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're looking great.
Thank you. You as well.
And for our viewers, you are the longtime news anchor at News One, Time Warner Cable. In fact, you were one of the original employees back in 1992.
Back in 1992, it was a new concept in television news, that 24-hour cable news.
Sure.
You know, News 12 Long Island preceded us, but we took it to another level in New York City.
Yeah, what were those early days like at the inception?
It was incredible to see a newsroom come to life. You've worked in newsrooms, Mickey. I've worked in newsrooms. We worked together at Channel 5, and it was already in place when we got there. But here was something that grew from a little seed, and it was just remarkable to see how you put together a news set, how you put together a news team, the crews, what we're going to cover, what our focus will be. So it was an incredible experience.
Sure, and you did it from scratch.
From scratch, with little money.
Yeah, right. Have things changed in that regard? Little
not
money?
Much.
But I did want to ask you, 20-some years later, what have been some of the biggest changes that you've seen?
Well, some of the biggest changes is the change in technology, of course. Right. That is the biggest. You know, we used to go from tape to tape. Everything now is digital. Yeah. And now, that I'm in my mid-40s, I see that I'm becoming like an old-timer. I'm like, whoa, this is moving too fast for me now. I was able to keep up in my 20s and 30s, and now technology is sort of like getting away from me. I'll sit with an editor sometimes and say, you know what, just do it. Because I can't follow anymore. It changes every year.
Every day, and you got to stay up with it as best you can, I guess. Now, you grew up in Rockaway Beach, Queens.
Yes.
How did you originally, growing up there, get interested in broadcast journalism?
It was a natural love as a child. Before I was 10 years old, I'm reading the Daily News, reading the New York Times. Unlike most of my friends, I would interview every family member. I interviewed a grandfather, and I regret to this day that I lost my notes. He fought in a segregated unit during World War I, not II, I. And, I was just fascinated, even as a child, by family legacy, what makes people tick, why do they do the things they do, and how it shaped them, and what impact it would have on me. So I was my first interview subjects were my family.
And you got the bug.
Yeah.
Now, after 2 decades as a reporter and an anchor, how would you describe this place and time in your career?
I think I have a lot more to do, but I am really happy where I am. I think I have accomplished some very important things, from covering 9/11 to interviewing people, you know, like Rudy Giuliani, when the big announcement that he had prostate cancer, and he sat down with me and told me things that he never told any reporter. And I was very proud of that, because that had to be handled with sensitivity, because Rudy Giuliani didn't play with you. You asked him the wrong question.
You were out of there.
Oh, yeah. So
well, he was out of there.
No, I would have been out of there. And he was very pleased with the interview, and, you know, interviewing people like Maya Angelou, Bill Cosby,
Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton, and of course the Central Park jogger. That was my first story that made international headlines, when she criticized Oprah, and she said Oprah made her feel like a victim. And when she said that, I went, whoa, I knew I had something there. So Oprah had to respond to that, and it created a buzz.
Yeah. Now you're the oldest of 5 children?
Yes.
I did want to mention that your dad was a New York City fireman,
Yeah.
and that, interestingly, he was the first African-American to integrate Engine 1, which is the oldest firehouse in New York City.
Yeah.
That's a story in itself.
That's a story in itself, and what he went through while he was there. You know, the firefighters now are all reaching out to me, and they say, you know, one of the funniest things was they put a sign on the firehouse when he walked in, because my father was dark-skinned.
Yeah,
and the movie Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with Sidney Poitier was out, and they put a sign, Guess Who's Coming to the Firehouse. So that's what was going on. You know, they thought it was good-natured fun, but I'm sure it had some kind of impact on my dad.
It mustn't have been easy for him.
Couldn't have been easy. They definitely harassed him, but, you know, they harass all probies.
Yeah,
so they say it wasn't personal, but
everyone got that treatment. Of course,
everyone
he passed.
He died
in a motorcycle accident.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, which was very traumatic for me to witness his spiraling downfall before I was 13 years old. Right. Well, no girl should have to rubberneck her father's undoing.
Sure. Still getting over it.
I'm telling you, until I learned about Sandy and Emma, it was something that always burned inside of me. Like, why did this happen? How could this happen? And who are we as a family?
And why did it happen to me?
Exactly.
Now, you're currently celebrating the release of your first book, titled Die Free, A Heroic Family Tale. And I read, in doing the research, that it all started for you one day at the computer, out of curiosity, you just typed in Ancestry.com.
Yep.
Is that how it started?
That is how it started, Mickey. I logged on to Ancestry.com like millions of Americans do. You don't know what you're going to find. It's like sitting at a roulette table, you know.
It's like fishing.
Exactly. You don't know what's going to come up. And I saw this name, Sandy Wills. I put in my dad's last name. I put in Haywood County, Tennessee. Boom. And then I saw USCT. I knew what that meant, United States Colored Troops, and my heart stopped. I said, no way. Hired a professional genealogist. That genealogist went to the National Archives in Washington, sent me back thousands of documents about a family I never knew.
Prior to that day, you didn't know Sandy existed.
Clueless.
Your great-great-grandfather.
My father didn't know he existed. His father didn't know he existed. Neither did his father.
Well, as you say, the genealogist, you're a reporter at heart.
Yeah.
So you hired somebody to make sure they got all their facts right.
You got to get your sources straight.
And I think that everyone who's watching this show tonight would love to learn more about their ancestry the way you did.
Absolutely.
When you uncovered all these documents, how overwhelming was it for you personally?
It was overwhelming personally, but it was also empowering, because it was something, like you said, all Americans want to know who paved the way for us. What did they do? If you're an American, your family's been here for a long time, someone struggled for you to enjoy the freedoms that you have. Freedom is not free. It wasn't free for African Americans, Irish, Italian. Everyone went through some form of hell for us to enjoy what we have. So you kind of want to be able to look back and say, hey, thanks for that.
Paved the way.
Paved the way for me.
Made it possible.
Exactly.
Your great-great-grandfather, of course, was Sandy Wills, as you mentioned. He was sold into slavery, I read in your book, at 10 years old, never to see his family again.
Right.
That was 1850.
Right.
Wow. The question, though, is, had he not fought in the Civil War,
would have never known.
He would have most likely died anonymously, yes?
Absolutely. In anonymity, like Most slaves did. They didn't keep their birthdays. They didn't keep track of when they died. They would throw their bodies over a mule in a burlap sack and toss them away like a piece of trash. So that's why African Americans especially are intrigued by this, because it's like, wow, you can pinpoint how you got your last name? Edmund Wills bought Sandy, and that was brought out in the pension papers. So, you know, numerous people said it. The soldiers he fought with in the Civil War said, yeah, Sandy bought him when he was 10. His widow, yeah.
Wow.